Hello and welcome. I know many of you were really looking forward to the 3DS and Nintendo Switch tier list video for Android, and that was exactly what I was planning to do this weekend. However, for at least the past few weeks, I've been receiving requests to test the new Nintendo Switch emulator for Android and Windows, called Sumi. Sumi is an emulator focused entirely on maximum performance, and I'm going to explain how it does that. It simply runs the emulator at 200% speed. But that's not all. I tested it against Sadachi running at 400% speed, and even then, Sadachi's performance was still inferior to Sumi's. So, there must be some other kind of optimization at play here. Currently, Sumi has builds available for Android and Windows, but on their GitHub, it also says that Mac and Linux versions are planned, though they're not available yet. Despite this performance-oriented approach seeming simple, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this emulator, and that's what we're going to discuss now. Saying that Sumi is trustworthy is like eating street food in the middle of the city. You never know if you're going to make it home with a stomachache. And let me dive deeper into that. First, something strange. Their list of contributors shows 353 developers, but I noticed that most of their activity happened before 2024. It's very likely that this list is fake, made just to give the emulator more credibility. The project also makes a lot of basic mistakes, which makes it clear that the team behind it is completely inexperienced. Two of the most serious issues I noticed during my tests. First, the Windows controller API doesn't work with anything other than keyboard and mouse. Either my DualShock 4 nor my various Xbox controllers were detected by the emulator, so they simply didn't work. Enabling the API in the debug tab or changing the controller settings had no effect whatsoever. Second, there's a major issue with installing game updates. Keep in mind that I only tested this on Android, so I'm not sure about the current situation on Windows. When you try to install an update, the emulator simply crashes. This was an issue that also used to happen mainly with Sadachi, and it even occurred in one version of Citron. But in both of those projects, the problem was quickly and easily fixed. In Sumi's case, the developers, whoever they actually are, recommend installing version 0.3 first, using that to install updates, and then updating the emulator to the current version. And finally, a third problem, excessive heating. Yesterday afternoon, it was a cold day here in Brazil, around 22 degrees Celsius. Under these conditions, if I were testing Sadachi, Eden, or even Citron, I wouldn't need to use an external cooler. But in less than 4 minutes running Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, which, by the way, wasn't even running well, the device already experienced thermal throttling, and I had to turn on the external cooler to continue testing. If you want to buy original games while saving a lot, check out Instant Gaming, the digital store that sells games for various platforms, such as PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Get games of all genres with discounts of up to 95%. You'll also find a variety of gift cards and credits for other services. You can pay for your order through your credit card on a website with a 4.7 rating on Trustpilot. You're buying games directly from Instant Gaming, not from other retailers. If you encounter any issues, Instant Gaming offers 24/7 support. And this month, Instant Gaming is offering a great discount on the newly released Monster Hunter Wilds, with up to 51% off, ensuring the lowest historical price for the game. Check out the price comparison with Steam's pricing. What are you waiting for to save? Links in the description. Now, talking about the Windows version of Sumi, and following the same standardized testing we've used before, once again we're going to pit Sumi against Bayonetta 3, No Man's Sky, and Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and compare it with other projects. Without further ado, let's get into the tests. First, we have Bayonetta 3, where we immediately saw at least a 12 FPS increase over what we previously achieved with Sadachi, which was considered the fastest Yuzu fork for running this game. With Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it's still a tie, but Sumi holds an edge with 1 extra FPS. Lastly, with No Man's Sky, we also achieved superior performance, above the average of all other forks. At first, I was impressed by the results, but the simple fact that you can't use controllers and can't install any additional content completely kills the excitement for me. I also don't know who's actually behind this project. Even their Discord link is broken and hasn't been fixed. So, if you happen to know or have access to the creator of this project, please ask them to reach out to me, either on my official Discord or via DM. Now, moving on to the Android version, I didn't compare it with other emulators. I just tested it individually. Overall, I couldn't run Tears of the Kingdom, as usual, not even using Mr. Purple's drivers. But this is a chronic issue with my device that can only be resolved using some Eden builds. Any other attempt to run this game will either crash the emulator or break the device's operating system. On the other hand, with Zelda Breath of the Wild, which often struggled to maintain 30 FPS on my device, Sumi now manages to reach up to 45 FPS, which is already a significant improvement. I tried replicating this test using Sudachi, and although I didn't record it, the game again struggled to maintain 30 FPS. I also tested Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but unfortunately, I couldn't install the update required for running the game in 64-bit mode. So, the test was conducted in 32-bit, and even then, I was able to get performance peaks of over 70 FPS, which honestly feels good enough for me when playing a racing game on a small-screen Android device. Unfortunately, excessive stutters and pauses still occur, but as we know, the game itself is partly to blame for that. Finally, I used Super Mario Odyssey as the ultimate test to see if this was just placebo, or if it was truly running better than the other forks. For this, I compared it directly with the latest Sudachi version. To prove I wasn't exaggerating, I specifically recorded the part where you take control of the dinosaur, which is one of the most demanding sections for emulating this game. Often, during this scene, performance can drop to around 40 FPS, causing noticeable slowdowns. But as you could see here, that didn't happen. Our lowest performance was 61 FPS, which is already more than enough to play the game smoothly. Overall, I was able to stay above 70 FPS for most of the time. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, keep in mind that there are some controversial aspects about this project. I didn't notice any kind of slowdown on the device, and I don't believe it's just something designed to steal your data. However, I absolutely don't believe that over 350 people actually worked on this project. Looking at how the entire interface is designed, it looks very similar to Citron. In fact, on their GitHub, there are thanks to both Citron and Sudachi, so I imagine they may have taken a Citron build, changed a few parameters, or added some performance hacks to achieve the results we've seen in this video. So let's wait and see if someone reaches out to clarify these small issues and whether the developer is capable of fixing them, or if it's just an enthusiast playing around with the code. To get in touch, I'm counting on you, by liking the video so it gets pushed to more people, or, if you're on the Sumi Discord, please share my video with whoever is responsible and ask them to contact me. If you enjoy this kind of video and want to support the channel, subscribe to stay updated on the most unusual emulators firsthand. Until I get any confirmation and some level of certainty that Sumi isn't collecting data, I recommend using this project at your own risk. I noticed some implementations like Vulkan 1.4, which was originally implemented by Pikachu in Eden, but the emulator doesn't credit that work. I'm not sure whether they updated the video API from scratch or simply copied Eden's fork. I've already sent it to the Eden team to analyze, and they, like I mentioned earlier, also believe it's a copy of Citron. But after these tests, I'm sure they didn't just copy-paste. I just need to understand how much the developer really knows about the code. If you'd like me to run more specific game tests with this emulator, leave a comment below. The GitHub link for the project will be in the description for those interested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.